Right, so I thought of the first way I'm going to use up some of that jam that didn't set the other day. We're going to make strawberry pie. I've never had strawberry pie, which blows my mind because I don't know, it just seems like every fruit is put in a pie, so why not strawberries? So anyways, I'm going to bring you along with me. So right now I'm putting together my pie crust right in here. Now the recipe I use is the perfect pie crust from Pioneer Woman. And if you use that recipe, you will notice there's a cup and a half of Crisco. I know people have mixed feelings about Crisco, but goodness gracious, I have tried a million other pie crust recipes and nothing has ever turned out like this one. So it works for me. That's what I'm gonna use. So in here I have 3 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1.5 cups of Crisco. Yes, 1.5 cups. The recipe doesn't call for it, but I'll throw about a tablespoon of cinnamon in there just to give the crust a nice little flavor. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to cut that Crisco into the flour mix until it's all combined. It's a pastry cutter. I use this for everything from making pie crust to mashing up potatoes for mashed potatoes. I'm pretty sure a potato masher would work just as well. Or even a fork. If all you got is a fork. You just got to mix that Crisco in before you add the liquid stuff. So I'll get this all combined, show you what it looks like, and then we'll go to the next step. So here's what your pie crust is going to look like so far. It kind of just looks like breadcrumbs, really. Just damp breadcrumbs. So I'm going to set that aside in a separate bowl. This is just how I do it, okay? Separate bowl, I whisk up 1 egg. I will do 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Now I use apple cider vinegar because white vinegar is just way too strong for me. I seem to be uber sensitive to it, and every time I taste it, I'm like, ugh, I can't handle it. The apple cider vinegar, however, is much more subtle, but it still gives you the same effect. The vinegar makes this crust very flaky. It starts to break down that gluten and gives you that flaky crust. And it's just, so good. Why not? So I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And I'm putting the egg, the vinegar, and the water in its own bowl before I put it in with my crust. And I'm going to do just 5 tablespoons of water. And 5 tablespoons of water. I'm going to mix that all up real quick. I grabbed a spoon and now I can't find it. There it is. Okay, so I've got it all mixed up. I'm going to combine the two and we'll get ready to roll this out. Once you combine everything, your dough will seem quite sticky at first. Keep working with it. Don't be afraid to get your hands in there. Now this recipe is enough for 2 crusts. Depends what kind of pie you're making. It's going to determine how many pies it's for. I'm doing a double crust pie. 1 on bottom, 1 on top. So this recipe is enough for 1 pie. If you like to do a granola or crisp on the top or open face pies, well then you get 2 pies out of this recipe. So I'm going to roll this out. I will say this, my favorite way to roll it out is using wax paper, because otherwise when you go to turn it or rotate your pie crust, what happens, even if you flour your surface, it starts sticking and then it rips and you're like, oh, I gotta start over. So I use parchment paper. depending on what I'm doing, will determine whether or not I use 1 or 2 pieces. I'm just going to set this out on the surface and roll it out with the parchment paper on top. So that way when I go to lift it and set it in my pie tin, it all comes up in one piece. Boom, boom, boom. We're done. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll show you what it looks like when I go to transfer it. It's so much easier. Now we're peeling the pie crust off the surface and putting it in the pan. Now, even if you flour your surface, all the work you do to roll out your pie crust, you're going to have parts that stick to your surface. So be ready to use spatula, knife, your finger, whatever, to try and gently work that off your surface. Now, you could do this with 2 pieces of parchment paper. I have found you still run into the same problem. You still have an issue with tears when you go to take it off the parchment paper and put it in your dish. But what's nice about this one is because of all the Crisco in the recipe, although it sticks, it's not, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It's not a hard, it doesn't stick hard. And so it's real easy to work off your surface. Okay, so now I've got that, and we will lay this in my dish pan. Just turn it over, flop it in, kind of straighten it out, get it flat against your baking dish. Now you do not have to grease your pan. Like I said, there's a lot of Crisco. It's kind of a non-stick recipe. Now, if your filling comes out through your crust, then yes, it's going to stick to your pan. And if that's what you're worried about, well, then grease your pan. But I'm going to get this taken apart, and then we'll get to the good stuff. Alright, so in this bowl, I have 5 cups of our frozen strawberries. I just poured a bunch in the pie to see what looked good, and it turns out it's about 5 cups of strawberries. These are halved strawberries, by the way. And then an 8-ounce jar of our jam that did not set. And I'm going to pour this in here and get it all mixed up. Now, most pie recipes, they call for cornstarch to thicken up your filling and stuff like that. I'm not using that because there is pectin in here. I'll put pectin in these jams. So I'm just going to mix it up, and then we'll get it in the pie and put a nice top crust on it. Alright, so we've got our strawberries and jam in here. This was actually a jar and a half, so about 12 ounces of jam. It just didn't look right, so I added some more. We've got our top crust rolled out. I'm going to get this put on top and cut some cute little designs in there. Alright, and now she's ready to go in the oven at 350 for about an hour. When it gets close to an hour, whether it's 10 or so minutes before, I'm going to check it. And if I see my crust starting to flake up and it's all golden brown, I'll take it out. So you kind of just play it by ear. But I always start with an hour. And when it gets close to that, we'll see how it goes. So 350, 1 hour. See you then.